School choice. Do you know what that is, warriors? School choice means that educational funds, your taxes that we all pay or should be paying, go into the education department. Now, that means the public school system here in the United States. School choice means that you should have the right to use those funds in any way you see fit to educate your child. That may be a private school, a charter school, homeschooling, whatever you think. So right now we have about 23 states that are allowing this school choice. Let's talk about it. School, in retrospect, my children are big adults right now. You know, it's not a one size fits all. I think you all know that, warriors. What works for one child does not work for another. But that's a whole nother program. But you should be able, as a tax-paying American, as a citizen with a voice. Remember, I want all of us to really, in 2023, start using our voices, vehicles for change. Be able to say, no, my child would do better homeschooled. And you should be able to be given monies for that. No, my child would be better in a charter school, private school, whatever it is. A lot of the, I was just looking up some stats before, and some of the states only give you a voucher worth $500 or worth $1,000. I mean, I guess it's better than nothing, but we know things cost more than that. Not only that, you should be given more monies because we know in the public school system, they are given a tremendous amount of money per student per year. So we just heard that the state of Iowa voted in the governor, his legislation, school choice. We really need to educate ourselves. We really need to find out, do we live in a state that allows school choice? You should take full advantage. Because again, schools are not a one size fits all. Remember, our children, our precious children, they're going through so much right now. They are overwhelmed, as we all are. But let's focus on the kids and on ourselves. And let's find out how we can get this pendulum. I'm determined to start swinging back. I see little bits of it swinging back here and there, but we can't do it alone. We need all of you. So first and foremost, we want to find out, how are we educating our kids? What are they learning? Who are they talking to? And it's interesting because yesterday I met with a friend of mine, and she's a teacher here in New York City, and she does a lot of tutoring. And the parents were so thankful. And she has all age ranges from, kids, 4, 5, 6 years old to fourth, fifth, sixth grade. So I was asking her, because I love to ask questions to actual, people, boots on the ground, actually doing the work. What's going on? What trends are you seeing? How are the kids acting? And yes, I just moved my chair as we're talking, because I always like to have my little angel kind of on my shoulder. So there we go. And she was telling me about the big kids. And she teaches about every single holiday. She thinks it's a very important piece of a child's education, the history. And I said, but I know her a long time, so I know where her heart is, and I know where she is as a teacher. And she will teach about Lunar New Year. She will teach about, Native American holidays. She will teach about, she was just telling me about Martin Luther King Day. And I also noticed this. She said the kids have no idea. They don't really know the history about Martin Luther King. Lunar New Year, relatively in our country, kind of newish, but it's been prevalent the last, maybe around the last decade, but okay, kids should learn about everything, right? But Martin Luther King, a piece of our history, I did not even appreciate until I was much older, when I went back and looked at what he wrote. Forget him as a man. I don't want to hear that argument. We're not talking about his personal life. We're not what he wrote, how he called for peace, calm, peaceful protesting. I have a dream. And the kids had no idea. And she told me individually, parents thanked her for, there's no critical race theory going on here. This was just history that happened in the United States. And she also was explaining to the older kids, she told me, that things are always happening in the United States throughout history. This is not the first time everything is just so awful and horrible. Yes, I think we can all concede that there's a lot of change going on. People don't like change. But with that being said, it's here. We have to learn how to deal with it, how we can push back appropriately, how we can take care of our own, right? And I thought, wow, that's pretty good to ease the kids, um, their minds. Again, we have the youth mental health crisis. We are overwhelmed with emergency room visits, kids trying to harm themselves, kids trying to or succeeding, committing suicide. I did my TNT radio program today. I do it every Saturday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And I had Detective Randy Snyder on. And Randy Snyder, internet crimes detective, and in Arizona. And that interview will go up shortly, and I want all of you to listen to it. Certainly, I put everything on Twitter and Facebook, SoundCloud, my SoundCloud channel, and you can find it. I don't want to bore you with, Podbean. We're on every Amazon Music. We're on every platform available. Once I put it up, I probably shouldn't tell you about the interview until I put it up, actually, but I'll remind you. And he's a dad, 3 kids. He wrote a great book called Cyber Creeps. And he talked about some real life investigations and broke down who actually goes online to entice and solicit a child. And it's not at all what you think. And he also very clearly explains, we keep hearing this word, pedophilia, pedophile. He clearly explains what that word actually means and its overuse. And also we talked about CSAM, child sexual abuse material. I don't know how someone like a Detective Snyder even works in this horrific business movement protecting children, because the stories are things you couldn't imagine or even write. But you know what? I think we can agree, like I formed the Warriors, these missions called us. We didn't call them. I know Detective Snyder, after 10 years of doing investigations, then moved into the Internet Crimes Division, where he actually acted as a child, enticing or getting to know, all that kind of stuff. And it's just overwhelming. But again, I urge all of you cyber creeps. It's not what you think, the kind of people. I know you think of somebody, and they do exist, in a hoodie, in a dark room, hiding behind a keyboard, but it could be your pastor. It could be your teacher, your coach. It could be a librarian. I'm just throwing things out there. It could be your neighbor next door. We need to face realities and facts. I tell you this all the time because everything is escalating. And Detective Snyder today pointed out in our chat, it is escalating, out of control, no stop in sight. What are we going to do? Well, I'm off to Washington next week because I am going to be powering up along with coalition members, other warriors, taking meetings with members of Congress, their legislative, their staff members, also a part of a roundtable discussing how we are going to take this whole thing, grab it, and stick it in front of Congress and say, you have to act on these child safety issues. We've got about 6 child safety bills sitting in Congress right now, bipartisan, by the way. And all of these safety bills, very evenly bipartisan, belonging to no political party. Everybody can get on board with child safety, right? But all of them are, Earn It Act, Lindsey Graham, Senator Richard Blumenthal. This is what we have. We have, COSA. We have Republican, we have a Democrat, okay? But we're going to come together starting next week in Washington and really be more forceful because we're up against, as you know, a government who's really not caring about the protection and safety of our children. And we have to do as much as we can do. And if we protect, help, educate one person or take care of one child a day, that's the best we can do. That's all we can ask for. And I want to go back to my friend who was the teacher and telling me the kids were so engaged in all the different age ranges she was telling me in what she was teaching them. And of course, anytime a child can have hands-on, more one-on-one tutoring or small group, pods, doing a lot of pods here in the city now. That pod could be, as long as you have 3 kids, that's a pod, but you could have 6, you could have 8. Parents so thankful. They want their kids, most of them, I'm here in New York City, right? And all you ever hear is everything bad about New York City. And there's a lot to complain about, but there's always been a lot to complain about. And we're going through a rough patch right now. The pendulum has to swing back. But I couldn't help. I stayed up late last night and I was doing research for something I'm writing. And I had the television on in the background, as I do with no sound. And then I decided, I saw, I was flipping around and I saw Memphis and the protests. And all day yesterday in New York, they were calling for peaceful protesting in Times Square. They were calling in Philadelphia. I have a friend who works there, and she let me know in building management. They put an all points bulletin type of thing out to be home by 6 p.m. and also tell the residents in all the different buildings. So there was kind of, this weird energy in the air that, my goodness, if anything like 2020, nobody can withstand that. No city, no town, people. So in the background on the TV, I turned the sound up and I saw these, black mothers with their black sons. And do you know, I got tears in my eyes thinking, oh, Dr. Martin Luther King, if he could see this, what's going on now in this country. And many of these mothers clearly stated, for Tyree Nichols, all of us can agree. We don't even know what he did. We keep hearing a traffic infraction or something, but we don't really know. If you're a mother, a grandmother, and for people to beat on somebody like that, I started crying. What have we come to? But these mothers clearly were saying this is not about race at all. And we're here peacefully protesting, and we're here with our sons. And I think, you know what? It's time for mothers and grandmothers of every kind of religion, persuasion, color to come together and take to the streets. This is what I'm thinking today, because women get the job done. Women are powerful. That's what I think. That's what I say. We're the only country, I think, most major countries, well, I'm thinking about it, they've had a lot of women in government. We really haven't had, what we have now is shocking and shameful as vice president, and I'll just leave it at that. But we need to come together and enforce and show as mothers. I don't care what color your skin is, we have to also, it's perception and breaking it down, because the Warriors works with law enforcement and they're terrific and they're wonderful, and we couldn't do our work without them. And for all of the law enforcement across the United States, what we saw with Tyree Nichols was, in other cases, a very small percentage. Now there, I'm not making excuses for it. I'm simply saying that we have to support our law enforcement and work with them. And that's why I'm calling for mothers and grandmothers coming together. I don't know if we're so far gone in 2023, that's even, maybe it's just a dream of mine. Because even in Washington, I was always told Democrats, Republicans, this is prior to COVID, when I was spending a tremendous amount of time in DC working on issues. At the end of the day, they all came together, vicious fighting during the day and name calling and whatever. At night, everybody was friends. Everybody went for drinks. Everybody went out to dinner. It was fun. It was great. Everybody put everything aside. The last couple of years, well, of course, COVID put a dent in everything. But on top of that, there is no anything going on where people are dining, laughing, and having a good time. Will we ever get back to acting like that? I sure hope so. But I really think it could start if we could get the women together and empower at the same time our young women, our future mothers, perhaps. And to see these mothers last night, how could you not cry when you hear somebody being beaten, calling out for their mother, and nobody stepped in to calm it down, or nobody stepped in? I usually don't really talk about these types of issues, but as a woman and a mother, and if you have a heart, you have to bring this up. It is horrific. It is not acceptable. We don't know what happened. We don't have all the facts. I just know I saw a young man, battered and bloodied and not helped right away and no de-escalation. And so I don't know what that's all about. I still want to hear what he did to enrage them to this point of no return. And it's sad. So all of you out there, take these issues seriously. What can you do? Because that's the question I get every day. Well, what can we do? What you can do is always follow lynswarriors.org. Thank you for watching these videos. If I can lend just a little bit of a nugget of something for you to think about every day, then I've done my job. Kiss your kids, kiss your grandkids. You might not have kids, but you have friends that have kids, or you have other family members that have kids. We've got to come together. We've got to start sticking together and making our voices heard, because that's the only way we will create change, because community creates change. So remember, thank you for watching this. Thank you for supporting the warriors. We have a lot of work to do ahead. We're making headway. Every day counts. Something new is popping up. Something's happening. And I can't wait when I come back from Washington to report to all of you what went on, because I do believe real work, can't do it by Zoom, can't do it by emails. You got to be in person. You got to march around the halls of Congress. You got to be in there and show your face. You got to put your, eye to eye. And that's what I intend on doing. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks as always for following the warriors. And remember, community does create change. Protect our children, and each and every day, be a warrior.